Yes, hello my beautiful friends and welcome back. We have a doozy scheduled here today. We've got Fulton County, which is now suing the FBI and the Trump administration to get their records back. There's a battle brewing, and we're going to go right to Rob Pitts, this guy right over here from Fulton County, and he is very, very nervous. He's explaining that he got a phone call, a couple of phone calls actually, about the raid before the raid occurred and after the raid occurred, which is weird. First of all, who's leaking that information to him? But then secondarily, he says arrests are coming. And we're excited about that because there are a bunch of criminals out there in Fulton County. So we'll go through that. Then we'll turn our attention over to Minnesota because there's a big backfire going there. We saw that Jacob Frey and Tim Walz were extremely excited that Greg Bovino was booted out of there and they brought in Tom Homan, but they're not happy with Tom Homan. We're getting stuff done there and they're freaking out about that. So we'll go through that. We'll talk about the SAVE Act. JD Vance was out on a tear today saying no surrender. The deportations will continue daily, according to Tom Homan. And so it's going to be a great stream. We're very happy that you're here and with us. Thanks for subscribing and liking this video and all the things. And then of course, stick around until after the show and we'll hear from you and see what you say about all of this and more. But let's get right into it, starting now. Fulton County freaking out. Chairman Rob Pitts now saying arrests are coming. He was out today in Fulton County and gave us a bit of a press conference. It was about 13 minutes long. We'll poke around through some of it, but this is the headline. He got some phone calls from somebody. We don't know who's leaking this information to him before the raid took place and after the raid took place. And now what they're doing is suing to get the records back. And he sounds very, very nervous. And so let's play a little bit of this. Then we'll go over to Tulsi Gabbard and the DNI because she came out in full force to combat the allegations that this whole thing is fraudulent or rigged. The New York Times was out. Mark Warner, the Democrats attacking her aggressively. And why? Because they know this was stolen, in my opinion. So here's what Rob Pitts had to say. He was over in Fulton County. Listen to this question and enjoy.
Say this is more so out of this necessity of voter privacy.
Absolutely.
And why do you feel like you were a target? I heard you say that in a previous comment. Why do you feel like you're a target of this investigation?
Well, I'm told that. I mean, I've gotten I received a call on Monday before last Wednesday, before the raid, that there were going to be arrests in Georgia. Secretary of State, his deputy, Sterling, I believe his name is, me, and 2 or 3 others. That did not happen on Monday. It didn't happen on Tuesday. But lo and behold, on Wednesday, the FBI shows up. And in addition to the FBI showing up, when Tulsi Gabbard showed up and we'd heard a rumor that she may be coming, I couldn't believe it. But I didn't meet her, didn't talk to her, but she was in fact there.
Yep.
So that leads me to believe, and any rational thinking person, that there's something sinister going on here. There's something bigger than just the FBI confiscating the records that they took. So that's why I say that. But nothing happened. Now, after the FBI raid on Wednesday,
what happened?
On Friday, I received another call.
Who's calling?
Actually, it was Monday. This Monday. Same source saying that you guys can't relax, even though the FBI has been there and they've confiscated the 700 boxes. Arrests are coming.
Yes!
So we'll have to wait and see.
We are going to wait and see. We're excited about that because we know that Fulton is riddled with fraud. We saw Fannie banging her Nathan Wade and getting away with the whole thing. And so we'll come back to this because there's more there. But what they are announcing, the whole thing today, was that they're initiating a lawsuit. And so here's a little bit of that. He says, today, Fulton County is suing. Listen how freaked they are.
This morning, Fulton County filed a motion in federal court on my behalf, personally, and on behalf of the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections. That's Rob Pitts and the Board of Registration and Elections versus the United States of America.
All under seal, or we'd have the document.
The motion seeks the return of all files from the 2020 election that were confiscated by the FBI last week during the raid at our Fulton County Elections Hub. The motion also seeks the unsealing of the affidavit that was filed in support of the search warrant that the FBI used to raid our warehouse. Now, however, because the case is still under seal at this time, I cannot share the contents of the motion itself. Now, last week...
So they're freaked out. They're suing. Of course, we'll get our hands on the documents as soon as they're available, but they're not out yet. But all week, we've been covering the fallout from the Democrats who have been, like Mark Warner, out there screaming about Tulsi Gabbard. Very nervous that these files have been seized now and are being reviewed for evidence of crimes. And Mark Warner was here, and DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, the office of the DNI, went out last night just on a burner. Post after post coming back and capturing the narrative, stealing it away from the Democrats who were trying to blame Tulsi for being a Russian agent or something. And we appreciate this, a government account going after the Democrats rather than going after Miranda Devine. Now, hey, Capitol Hill press corps, said DNI, Mark Warner is lying to you because he's a liar. And we covered this yesterday at length. But Mark Warner and his top chief of staff person, his top security official at the Intelligence Committee, was literally sleeping with the journalist and leaking information about the Russian collusion hoax, which was fake, to her and implicating Carter Page during Trump's first term. Same guy. So they say Mark Warner is a liar. Do you plan to call out any of his false statements? Here's the truth. Tulsi and the DNI has processed and addressed every bit of correspondence from your office. All 6 of your whiny letters have been dealt with. Refusing to fact check him and ignoring our responses is a slanderous accusation and it's negligent reporting. And she's responding to this little clip from Mark.
I'm not sure we've had any of the letters we've actually even written the DNI ever responded to over the last year. There may be 1 or 2. So, but,
You're a liar because we read the letter yesterday, liar. So, of course, Tulsi is continuing and she says, I also just sent a new letter to Congress. The Intelligence Inspector General confirms that this whistleblower claim against her that we saw being spread around yesterday is false. Here's the truth. The Biden era intelligence community, IG Inspector General, determined that the allegations against Gabbard, quote, did not appear credible. You're kidding. The Biden era, also IG, did not inform Gabbard of any requirement to transmit this to Congress, so there is no delay. Also, the prior IG closed the case and declined further investigation, saying this is not even an urgent concern requiring prompt congressional notification. And so after a briefing on providing security guidance, Gabbard took immediate action, updated you guys. And the truth is, it's not an urgent concern, and there is no there. This is the letter that went back over to Mark and to Tom Cotton, and it's from the Inspector General. It's not from Tulsi. You can see over here, Chris R. Fox. And this is in response to they're trying to take our eyes off the ball. Okay. It's not that Tulsi is a Russian agent that they're concerned about, really. They just need to say that because they don't want us looking in Fulton County. And so Tulsi sent this big letter. Actually, the IG did, but she's publishing it for everybody to see. Hopefully the media will take this and confirm for everybody that this is legitimate. But just to hit the highlights on this from the IG, it says, all right, listen, Cotton, Warner, Mark, Crawford, the rest of you guys. Today I received guidance from Tulsi about an urgent concern. Now, the guidance requires the complaint to be hand-delivered and made available to the Gang of 8, the senators who are idiots. Once I got the guidance, I directed my team to give you access to this information. We also got this back in 2025. The IG hotline got this, and we started to review it. Then in June 25, after receiving new evidence, Acting IG Johnson issued a supplemental determination finding that the first allegation did not appear credible, while remaining unable to assess the credibility of the second application. But then supplemental determination determined that there is no there. More details about what happened. He says on December 4th, I then met with Mr. Deaver and Miss Gabbard talking about all of these issues. And given the unprecedented supplemental determination and the attention this case has received, I thought the committees should know my view on the matter, and it continued on. Now, for any complaint, you should consider how the complainant knew or could have known any of these things and whether this is really an urgent concern. But I explained why we are limiting the distribution of this. It's not an urgent concern. It doesn't meet that standard. In fact, it might be a political attack. And so if we're going to say, well, if this is true, all that is doing is allowing speculation. Okay, you can play the hypothetical game all day long. If it's true, what if? So we don't just spread around slanderous accusations. So when I applied the facially neutral standards for determining the credibility and the sufficiency of these claims, I find the Inspector General that it does not meet an urgent concern. And so they're just trying to distract from their crimes, which are many. And so Tulsi continued on and said, let's debunk this exclusive. All right. The facts tell the truth. They said that an intelligence official has alleged wrongdoing. Not true at all. In fact, the complaint against Tulsi failed the entire credibility review. They say that she hindered dissemination. No, they didn't. It was just so lacking in credibility that they wouldn't disseminate it because it would be irresponsible. So the truth is, Gabbard is amazing. She acted immediately. She gave them everything they needed. She supported lawful whistleblower channels. There's no cloak and dagger mystery. And the whistleblower's lawyer, Andrew Bakaj, is no neutral actor. He's a partisan advocate with a documented history of advancing complaints against Trump-era officials. And they've done this many times. Remember the CIA guy and the others? Says his counsel on multiple politically charged complaints. He sues against Trump. He's a former Democrat staffer. He frames cases against the fight against the administration. And so the media is filled with liars, and Tulsi Gabbard was there upholding the integrity of America. But more is coming out. Now, Rick Crawford, of course, is on the Intelligence Committee, and there's a lot of demands that they step in here and stop this whole investigation from continuing. He says, our House Intel Committee got a letter from ICIG Fox, the one we just read, alleged whistleblower complaint, and the ranking member and I, along with the appropriate staff, have reviewed it. Now, after doing so, I concur with the conclusion of the Biden Inspector General, Tamara Johnson, that she reached in concluding that this is a non-credible complaint. Chris Fox reconducted the complaint. There was a media firestorm fed by speculation. They're all attempting to smear Tulsi and Trump. This is the same deep state playbook used by the fake whistleblower that sparked the first Trump impeachment that Mark Warner was a part of when he had his top intelligence security person banging the journo and then leaking information to her that she would then publish to set the narrative. They've done this before. He says the deep state works hard, but Gabbard and her team work even harder. You know you're right over the target when they're deploying every tool in their arsenal against you, and they are absolutely freaked. And here's more on this. Now, our friends over at Badlands Media are amazing. They've done some great reporting over here. It says if the governor doesn't want to investigate, this is Governor Kemp in Georgia, they said we're not going to investigate. That's a quote. So is Brian Kemp, a Republican governor, involved in the cover-up? Article by Brian Lupo posted today. Takes us through some of the transcripts from a senator called Perdue, who is not a senator right now because they probably stole the election from him, but he was a senator preceding. And when he was brought in during the grand jury, Fani Willis hired her lover to go prosecute the Trump people. You see, there's a common theme and pattern here. Everybody's sleeping with each other, banging everybody in their offices. And then Wade sits down with Perdue during the grand jury proceedings and asks him some questions. And a senator says, I've got concerns about this. And Fani didn't investigate it at all because Brian Kemp, the governor, along with Brad Raffensperger, shut the whole thing down. So Badlands, Brian Lupo, shout out. He said, let's rewind the clock a little bit. On October 24th, Trump surrendered himself to the authorities in Fulton County. We got 19 people charged. RICO. We spent a long time covering this. Meanwhile, Fani is indicting Nathan Wade constantly. They're sending like a gazillion text messages to each other. And it was ultimately dismissed. But even after the dismissal, the case is providing us with more context about what actually happened. Last month, McAfee, the judge, lifted a protective order on the special grand jury. And we got some transcripts now. One particular transcript contains a concerning claim made by a former senator. Might carry some weight if it comes from a senator, right? David Perdue. On September 6, 2022, Senator Perdue sat for a transcribed interview in front of the grand jury. He was examined by Nathan Wade. Nathan's hot dog was there. And here's how it went down. Here's the transcript. There's Senator David Perdue. They're inquisitioning him. There's Fanny's lover, Wade. Now, after the pleasantries, Wade asked Perdue, do you agree that investigations by Raffensperger, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, and numerous investigations, Senator, do you agree? We've all looked into this, okay? Nothing happened, right? At State Farm Arena on election night? Perdue said, yeah, well, there was an investigation. Question to Perdue from somebody, probably Nathan. Wade, he says, okay, sure. Okay, so you're talking about the pre-January 6, 21, right? So Wade says, so just to get the timeline straight here, Senator, I'm talking about sitting here today. So you're talking about State Farm Arena and the things that happened in the video, I'm assuming. Now, you know, since the Secretary of State's office, the GBI, numerous investigations have looked into that and said that nothing illegal happened. Senator says, actually, that's your opinion. Okay, that's not a fact. Wade says, it's not my opinion that those investigations have. He says, hey, well, let me give you one example. Wade says, do you agree that those investigations took place? He says, yeah. That the GBI investigated? He says, yeah, I agree that an investigation happened. That did occur. Yeah, they were poking around, moving files around, just, you know, take one file over here, put it over here. Oh, I've looked at it. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. As long as Joe Biden wins, we're happy to investigate anything you want. As long as the end result is we win. Wade fired back. He said, it's just a simple question. I just want you to flush out for the grand jury what you mean, because it's a simple question. Did the GBI investigate those claims? Your claims. He says, no, not to my knowledge, not to my satisfaction at all. When Wade asked if Perdue had reason to believe that the GBI would not have conducted a satisfactory investigation, Perdue's response, he says, was shocking. He said, well, I got a phone call in November 21 from Vic Reynolds. This is the senator speaking. He's the then director of GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Reynolds calls Perdue. Reynolds says, hi, Senator. We're not going to investigate these election claims. He says, what? The governor wants me to tell you why we're not going to investigate, says the senator. Huh. Why is the governor coming in here and putting his thumb on an investigation? Perdue also said that in May 21, Reynolds, who's working for Brian Kemp, the so-called Republican, was presented with evidence of ballot harvesting. He says, I went to the governor and I told him these things. He said there was video evidence, there was cell phone evidence, there was testimony and bank records that corroborated this whole scam. He said that Reynolds looked at that and did tell him back in May that it was compelling enough to be investigated. So the investigation goes on. Trump doesn't get indicted until much later. Grand jury's poking around. Perdue goes on to say, well, the reason that the governor's second in command or whomever that was gave him for not investigating the compelling evidence was because Reynolds was, quote, a team player. That's why we're not investigating. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate. Okay. A rigged election? Perdue would conclude his answer by stating that for the record, that the then GBI director, wow, that's Vic Reynolds. Okay. So the director of the investigative body calls. We're not investigating. He says, I'm a senator. I've got evidence. I've got videos. I've got documents. Can you look into it? You're like the lead investigator. So the governor said no. Oh, what happened after that? Oh, yeah. So GBI director then gets a promotion. He goes to the Superior Court, judge of Cobb County. Wow. Now he's ensconced as a judge forever. An appointment that Brian Kemp made in August 2022, just 1 month before the testimony was given. Incredible. Question for Perdue. Okay, do you have a reason to believe that GBI would not have conducted a satisfactory investigation? He says, yeah, I'll give you a phone call that happened. He says, okay, sure. What's the phone call? He said, yeah, very clear. In November 22, the head of GBI called Vic Reynolds called me. It's a matter of record. I have the document here if you want to see it. He called me and said, we're not going to investigate. The governor wants me to tell you why we're not going to investigate. I said, okay, please do. Yeah, let me know. Because he was in a meeting in May when he saw evidence of ballot harvesting. And this is video evidence and cell phone evidence, along with testimony and bank records that are all corroborated on and all that. He looked at that and said it was compelling to be investigated. That was in May. He called me, said, wow, this is pretty crazy. I got video, I got cell phone footage. I can see all of it. This is not good. Bank accounts, hired, $100,000 to go get these ballots. Everybody's spreading money around. Can you look into it? He sends it to me. He goes, yeah, damn, that's pretty. Yeah, I'll look into it. Then a few months go by. November comes down. He calls me and he says, oh, bad news. I saw all that evidence. It looks pretty bad. However, we're not going to investigate because I'm a team player. And if the governor doesn't want me to investigate, then we're not going to investigate. And for the record, this is a senator testifying, talking to the head of the entire investigative body in Georgia. For the record, he's been promoted to Superior Court Judge of Cobb County. It's such a corrupt scam. We're living in such a fake system. Go be a judge. Nobody can remove you. You're permanently ensconced in there. What, are they going to impeach you or what? No, you're forever. It's a forever position. Good luck. Thank you for covering up and not investigating the fraud from Brian Kemp, the governor. Now, according to Purdue, Vic Reynolds saw evidence of ballot harvesting that was compelling enough to open up an investigation. And this is not the first person who got appointed to a new judgeship. Nice, shiny judgeship. Is he a judge? Is he a lawyer? He's an investigator for the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Does he even have a law license? What the hell's going on? Brings him over. You're now a judge. Okay. Toward the end of the testimony, another attorney was there, Donald Wakeford. He asked Purdue to follow up a follow-up question. He says, Mr. Wakeford, I have a follow-up question, if that's okay. I wanted to follow up on one thing you mentioned earlier in your testimony. You mentioned a telephone call between yourself and Vic Reynolds, who's the head of the GBI or was the head of the GBI. You said that although Mr. Reynolds had received evidence that he felt he was compelling enough to open an investigation, that he was told not to do that because the governor, Brian Kemp, told him not to. Purdue said, yeah, that's one of the things he said to me. Yep, under oath in front of a grand jury. Yeah, he said he wants to be a team player and not do his job. Purdue also clarified that there had been two whistleblowers, in fact, two, who had come forward and testified about ballot harvesting in Georgia. One claimed to have corroborative evidence, including bank statements of payments for what he did. We got video. We got receipts. It's all documented. But they could not move forward. Why? Purdue said, well, get them whistleblower protections. Go protect them. Have them testify and do the investigation. But the evidence that was presented to Reynolds and also viewed by Purdue came out from another presentation that was made by True the Vote. According to a follow-up letter by Reynolds, the data identified 279 cell phones which had made multiple trips to within 100 feet of a voter drop box. 279 little smurfs out there roaming around, gobbling up the ballots and making multiple trips, harvesting the votes. They tracked that down through geolocation. Now, Reynolds said, what has not been provided is any other kind of evidence that ties these cell phones to harvesting. For example, there are no statements of witnesses and no names of any potential defendants. So we're so screwed. We can't figure it out. Saliently, it has been stated that there is a source that can validate this. Despite repeated requests, the source has not been provided to either the GBI or the FBI. Now, and of course, the FBI was involved in the cover-up as well. Now, and probably January 6th. In fact, we know they were involved in January 6th. Now, as it exists, the data, while curious, does not rise to the level of probable cause. And so we can't investigate anything. But that's all refuted. Okay, Catherine Engelbrecht, who runs over at True the Vote, gave a statement to Badlands Media. And by the way, they're everywhere. Badlands is on Rumble. I think they're on YouTube too. They do great work, great shows, awesome dudes over there. Make sure you're giving them a follow everywhere you watch anything. Says Vic Reynolds, and she says in response, his description of what happened with the investigation is untrue. We met once with Vic Reynolds and his team in the governor's office in early 21, where we walked them through everything. After that meeting, we made repeated attempts to re-engage with them and never got a response. Now, on the one hand, you could say, well, they just think she's crazy or something, right? Totally lacking in any credibility, totally unbelievable. So we're not going to meet you again. Or on the opposite hand, They go, holy crap. They track the cell phones. They know exactly what we did. We're totally screwed. So we're never going to talk to them again. Now, the FBI offered to assist by hosting a secure database so the GBI and other law enforcement agencies could preserve the chain of custody and act. They were clear, though, that they were not conducting an investigation and they did not collect any evidence. That's why Purdue is saying, no, I'm not happy with it. Now, given what followed, it's unclear if there ever was any genuine investigation at all. Engelbrecht says, the next time that this newly appointed judge, Reynolds, surfaced was when a letter that he wrote and addressed to us appeared in the news, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, he sent the letter to them before we got it. So he's leaking to the media. We did get the media, and then we responded right to the governor. The suggestion that this stalled because we failed to provide info is simply inaccurate. We were shut out early as a public pressure mounted to just, the election's fine, stop talking about it. The focus shifted to blaming us. Now we're the conspiracy theorists. Now we're the bad people who are trying to undermine America's most safe and secure election in the history of the planet. Obviously, a senator didn't buy it. Now, he's not the first Georgia official to later get appointed to a judgeship. The victories came down later. Ossoff and Warnock, they gave Democrats control of the Senate. Joe Biden had all branches of government because they stole it. Purdue was the incumbent in 2020, didn't get the 50 vote threshold against Ossoff. He won 90,000 votes more, but there was a runoff and then Ossoff won by 55,000 votes. Incredible, right? All the Republicans in Georgia then are like, nope, shut up. Don't investigate any of this. It's the best election you've ever seen. Now, he's not the first person who got appointed up to a higher office just to get him out of the great job well done. Go be a judge. Nobody's going to subpoena a judge. Nobody's going to haul you in to testify. You're a judge. You're basically protected and walled off. Following the election, Brad Raffensperger claimed that an audit of 5 counties was performed by Pro V&V, a testing lab. However, this lame company is not even a certified auditing firm, and their involvement in any post-election audit would be a direct conflict of interest since they were responsible for certifying the equipment prior to the election. So of course they're going to come in and audit themselves and say everything that we set up for you was perfect. It's rigged. Raffensperger claimed that Cobb, Douglas, Floyd, Morgan, Paulding, Spalding, and other counties were the subject of their audits. They keep saying they're audits. Oh no, we've audited everything. Great. So the people who ran the election audited themselves, and you want to lecture us about how we're the ones who were off on this? Below are open records requests from 3 of those counties. They've got them. Couple emails. Janine Evelyn from Cobb County sent this over to Kevin. Maybe that's Kevin Moncla, maybe, at Gmail. Janine says, the Center for Election Systems did an audit at one point. I don't know if they contracted with a vendor to assist with that or not. It's like, Janine, you're the Cobb County Elections and Registrations Director, Janine. You don't know? Did they do the audit themselves? What kind of audit is that? Janine, did Pro V&V ever do a forensic audit of your machines after the 2020 election? Thank you. From Kevin. Oh, no. Well, is there anybody there who would know? Like, the director? Oh, that's you. Another email from Desiree. Hey, in response to this message says, oh, thank you for your request. Paulding County has no emails or responsive documents pertaining to your request. We did not have an audit of the machines following November. We have no communications with Brad, the secretary, Dominion, or Pro V&V, so there was no audit at all. And another one from Douglas. Yeah, we sent in a records request. Did you audit anything? No. The Douglas County Board of Elections found no records responsive to your open records request about comms with Brad or the Board of Elections or voter registration. No communication was identified at all about an audit of Dominion machines afterwards. There were also no records of any audits by Pro V&V anywhere. So the memo from Jack Cobb, the president of the Pro V&V, to Michael Barnes, which works for Raffensperger, so from the people who ran the election and then allegedly audited themselves, they sent a memo over to Brad's office acknowledging that there was a request for this. It was dated 7/16/2021, more than 8 months after the audit had already been allegedly performed. So they're lying about the audits too. this message came out from Jack Cobb to Georgia Secretary of State office. It says, "Dear Mr. Barnes, the Secretary of State's office has requested that we perform a field audit of the Dominion systems. The purpose of the audit is to verify the voting system in the requested locations are all fine. So we were provided the following locations and asked to select random samples, all those locations. And so we're going to need the following, this information. This was created on 7/16. Look at the depth of this reporting, man. Shout out to Badlands, man. Awesome. They looked in to the metadata. The person who created that was Jack Cobb, and they created it on 7/16 after they said the audits had already been completed. Now, according to Georgia resident Bob Couvert, who facilitated the open records request, Raffensperger included the results of this audit in a 10-page letter following a December 22, 2020 promise to investigate this. So how did he have the results of an audit in December 2020 when the request for the audit came out in July 2021? How'd that happen? So maybe he's just a liar. According to Georgia resident, he probably is. Secretary of State told us on November 17th that we ordered a testing and we've done an audit. Now, he claims that he took evidence of 28 instances of fraud up to Governor Kemp and his lawyers. Then they referred it to another inspector general. Scott McAfee? Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Is that the same Fanny judge? Are you kidding me? Scott McAfee, Georgia judge. Is this the same guy? It is the same guy. Are you kidding me? Okay, so the Inspector General, Scott F. McAfee, said he can only go after one allegation, the claims that an audit never took place. So then Couvert claims that when he gave McAfee the evidence that the audits didn't take place in the 6 counties mentioned, McAfee stopped talking to him. He then claims he also went to someone else called Allison Sosby, then a DA in the Appalachian Circuit, and shared information with her. She stopped talking to him following the presentation of evidence. Okay, they're dead to rights. They show up with this binder. They're like, "You're totally screwed." They're like, "Oh no, you're a conspiracy theorist. Please leave." Everybody you talk to now is going to be appointed to a judge, and it's to immunize them. It's so that you can't subpoena a judge or harass them. I'm a state judge. Both McAfee and Soseby are now Superior Court judges appointed by Governor Kemp, and I'm pretty sure that's the same judge, McAfee, that was presiding over the case. Okay, literally presiding over the case. This guy, Scott McAfee. Judge overseeing the Trump Atlanta indictment re-wins his election. So Kemp appoints him? Is that the same dude? Wow. So now they get appointed and they're taken out of the game. And let's make sure that we are, of course, subscribed over there to those guys. Badlands Media. Wow. What a shocking reveal. Think that's the same guy. So man, shout out to them. And this report, Badlands Media, badlands.substack.com. Everybody who got evidence presented to them was taken off the field and made judges. So you can't investigate them anymore. It's a total scam. It is rigged top to bottom over there. What a disaster. So Cleita Mitchell, of course, has been working on this for a long time as well. Senior legal fellow conservative and works with the Election Integrity Network. And she posted this in the fallout of this Georgia scandal. Says, let's talk about Fulton County from 2020. 74,000 absentee ballots were reported as cast when the polls closed on November 3rd. 4 days later, somehow 148,000 absentee ballots were counted, almost double, with no signature verification at all. And of the 148,000 new absentee ballots, guess how many were rejected? 6. Over 1 million extra absentee ballots were ordered by Fulton County October 16th, 2020, after the deadline occurred to mail the ballots to the voters. Absentee ballots without envelopes. The law requires that absentee ballots be mailed. And any ballots without stubs, they're required by law for emergency or provisional ballots. Tens of thousands of ballots came to the State Farm Arena on and after Election Day. They were in unsecured mail carts. There was no chain of custody at all. For the 148,000 new ballots, and remember, the margin, Joe Biden won by 11,700 votes. That's it. 132,000 absentee ballot images have no SHA file, which is like a hash to make sure that it's legit, created automatically when a ballot is scanned. It's like a fingerprint. There you go. Used to authenticate the digital image of the ballot. Only 16,000 absentee ballot images have their corresponding unique fingerprint authentication file because they're fake. 132,000 ballot images were deleted. The SHA files all gone. Of those deletions, 104,000 ballot images contain modified timestamps or other metadata anomalies. Somebody's in there manipulating the records. Now, those electronic file anomalies and deleted authentication files strongly suggest deliberate ballot image manipulation, not a clerical error, which is what they always blame when they get caught. So, more from Cleita. And of course, we remember this clip. This is an old clip from 2024, clip courtesy of Kanakawa the Great. And it shows this a meeting in a committee in Georgia. And this guy in the bottom right called Mark Wingate is going to explain to us just how problematic this whole election was.
Research
and
on
hindsight now is 2020 as we continue to unpack this meatball.
the things that led me initially to have concern about everything was much earlier in 2020. And I can't remember exactly when I began. I started looking at our voter rolls. And, I did, some fairly simplistic research on the population of Fulton County, Georgia. And what I found out, and of course started pressing that with the elections department, through subsequent monthly meetings, et cetera, was that the numbers that I was able to ascertain, we had more voters on the active voter rolls than we did of the population of the entirety of Fulton County, and then extrapolating for those of voting age. So that became a major concern of mine, and frankly, lasted throughout and continued even after the 2020 election. So that was a big issue. And of course, inside that 2020 timeframe, really there was nothing done to, wasn't time, and I understand all of that, but there was nothing done to answer my questions on that.
No one investigated.
That, I thought, well, look, it's only fair to the voters of Fulton County that, we're having clean voter rolls here so that nobody's vote, is disparaged because, somebody may have come in and voted that, frankly, legally should not be able to. So I think that's very, very important for the be Fulton County or anywhere in the country. But from that, in the 2020 election itself, I had and other board members had requested that we obtain the chain of custody documentation from the department.
Would be good. Pretty standard.
And none of that was ever delivered.
Of course not.
It was not delivered at the time of request leading up to the election, and was certainly not given. We weren't giving any. Was given nothing. Even leading up to this certification.
Right there.
Absolutely incredible. So as that was playing, I did a little AI search on that McAfee just to confirm. Was Scott McAfee, the judge who was presiding over the Fannie Willis RICO case, was he actually the same guy who was the inspector general who refused to actually investigate the fraud? Turns out, yeah. Scott McAfee, the new judge who just got appointed there so that he would be immunized and could continue to help cover this whole thing up. He was in fact the IG. He was the Georgia Inspector General from April 21 until he got shoved in there by Brian Kemp. He led the office investigating fraud. Didn't really investigate anything, it turns out, and was rewarded for that. He was appointed by Kemp to be the Inspector General. Then once he did his job and didn't actually uncover the election fraud, they made him the judge. so he could carry on his operation. It is a scandal of epic proportion. So we're learning more every day, and I'm a little embarrassed I didn't know that. But here was this lady, and this is a wild thing that's happening down there. They're so nervous about this. And if you remember this woman, she was the same woman that another independent journalist was following around the day of the raid. And she was like, "You're a conspiracy theorist. Get out of here and give us back our votes." All the things. Today, they held a registration and elections appreciation day just so that they could, like, I guess, feel better sitting around in a circle and sing Kumbaya. Here's what is happening in Fulton County.
Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections Appreciation Day, sponsored by Commissioners Barrett and Ivory.
I'd like to invite the Department of Registration and Elections down to join us. And as they're making their way down, I just want to say that we run exemplary elections in Fulton County that can be. Thank you.
Yeah, they all feel good about themselves. Yeah, no, we run rigged elections. That's how we keep winning everything. So that's what they're doing over there. But meanwhile, we see that we need to have some serious election reform. Sidney Powell, who was put through the ringer with a lot of this election litigation, says we are fed up with this. And now we have 35 members of Congress that are asking for Mitch McConnell to stop delaying the SAVE Act. Short letter here. They say, listen, we write to ask that you schedule the SAVE Act immediately. We have the midterms coming up, swiftly approaching. We cannot delay any critical legislation that will undermine, or rather ensure, the integrity of our elections. On April 10th, we voted to advance the SAVE Act. This was sponsored by Mike Lee and Chip Roy. We want to prevent foreign nationals from voting in U.S. elections. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard was there. We've got Maduro in custody. We've got Maduro, Venezuela's top intelligence agent, in custody. He's confirmed for us that there are real concerns about foreign influence in our elections. Now, as the chairman of the Senate, Rules Committee, and more, this committee was referred to you. You have the authority to add this legislation to the markup calendar. The time for markup is past due, and this is not good because McConnell's in the hospital now with the flu. So as the midterms approach, the Senate must take urgent action to address this threat to our citizens' national self-determination. The problem is not hypothetical, okay? In states across the country, from Texas to Ohio, thousands of aliens have been identified as being registered to vote in federal elections. Now, while Republican states have taken firm action to remove these individuals from voter rolls under the NVRA and continue to investigate, other states make it impossible to do this. And so the SAVE Act is necessary so that we can fix these problems. It's overwhelmingly popular. We saw CNN was even saying, even across racial groups, everybody wants voter ID. According to a Gallup poll, an overwhelming 83% of American voters support requiring people to prove their citizenship, provide an ID. The same poll even says Democrats want this. And as you will recall, Mitch, 62% of voters in Kentucky also favor this. So we have to make sure that we have fair elections. Constitution requires that every person here is guaranteed a Republican form of government, not rigged votes. So Mitch, hopefully he gets out of the hospital soon and reads this letter. Bunch of people are on it. Gill, Crane, Clyde, Pfluger, Jackson, Cloud, Alford, Fine, and many more. Corey Mills, Dusty Johnson, Mark Harris, many others on the list. And of course, we want to see action on that immediately. But here's Cleita Mitchell. She was on with Bannon today and said, here's what's going on with Fulton County. We just read a post from her articulating the numbers and explaining just how problematic the math actually is.
I want people to picture in your mind November 4th, the morning of November 4th, the day after the election, the national presidential election. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger from Georgia went on the Today Show and he said the following, that a record 4.7 million ballots had been cast in Georgia. This is the morning of November 4th. President Trump was in the lead by 103,000 votes. And there were only 94,000 ballots left to count. Now, remember, the deadline for receipt of absentee ballots in Georgia in 2020 was when the polls closed 7 p.m. on November the 3rd.
It's over.
So that's a known number the next day, right? Except that when they finished counting the ballots 4 days later, suddenly there were 300,000 more ballots than there were when the polls closed on Election Day. Absentee ballots that came in, and half of those, 148,000 of those, were from Fulton County. Now, let me tell you some things about Fulton County. And all of this is from a 263-page intense report with every document, visual images. You cannot believe the things that are in this report. And I'll tell you where to find the full report. But I wanted to go through those 260 some odd pages and pull out the bullet points that everybody needs to just understand. So let's talk about Fulton County absentee ballots. There were 74,000 absentee ballots that had come into Fulton County by the time the polls closed, the legal deadline by the time the polls closed on November the 3rd. But somehow, 4 days later,
just kept counting.
Instead of those 74,000, there were 148,000.
Total scam.
Plus, just a little over 148,000 absentee ballots that were now suddenly in the mix. Now, where did those come from?
Fanny's booty.
Fulton County election officials ordered on October the 16th over 1 million new absentee ballots.
For whom?
They were ordered without envelopes, even though in order to cast an absentee ballot in Georgia, you have to mail it. You have to put it in an envelope. It has to be sealed in an envelope. And we saw in one of our counts in our lawsuit, our election contest, that was never heard by a judge because no judge was appointed. But our volunteers saw all of these pristine ballots, no folds. Those cannot be absentee ballots. But tens of thousands of these ballots were delivered to the State Farm Arena with no chain of custody. Here's the ultimate data point. According to Fulton County and the Secretary of State records, this is post-election, there were 148,319 absentee ballots in Fulton County counted, included in the totals for Georgia. But only 125,784 voters were recorded as having cast an absentee ballot. That is a difference of 25,535 more ballots than voters who are recorded as having registered for and cast an absentee ballot in Fulton County.
Totally
so
fake.
that's 25,535 more ballots than voters. And the margin between President Trump and Joe Biden was 11,779. Now, these absentee ballots that came in, there were over 133,000 ballot images deleted. Only 16,000 of the 148,000 absentee ballots, only 16,000 have the actual ballot images that were retained as required by law.
No wonder they're
And people
freaks.
have looked at those ballot images and they see anomalies, markings, changed timestamps. They believe that those were deliberately deleted. Now, that's just in the absentee ballots.
Massive fraud, massive
We
crimes.
get into the tabulators, where the tabulator tapes, that every tabulator has a tape. It is supposed to have a memory card that is put into the tabulator at the beginning. They're supposed to print out a poll tape that says 0, there are no ballots on this machine at the start of the election. And then there's a memory card that's supposed to be put in. There's a seal that is put on, and that is not supposed to be taken off until the polls close from advance voting prior to Election Day, the Friday before Election Day. But what we see in Fulton County, and there's also supposed to be a closing tape. So there's supposed to be every tabulator a tape that has the opening at 0, and at the closing, it's supposed to say how many ballots were tabulated by that particular machine. It is supposed to have the serial number of the machine that actually tabulated the ballots. What did they do in Fulton County? There are only 9 tabulators that have opening tapes. There are zero poll tapes that have both the opening tape and the 0 count, the official record of how many ballots were tabulated,
Insane.
and the serial number. There are 0 of the 148 tabulators in Fulton County in 2020. There are zero tabulator tapes with all the required statutory information. There are no
In violation of the law.
qualified numbered voter lists for Fulton County for in-person voting. Every voter who comes in is supposed to be sign in. That becomes the numbered voter list. They know exactly how many have shown up to vote, and none of those the numbered voter list exist. I can go on, and if you look at the reports and the complaints and the documents in this comprehensive report, over 260 pages, and it is mind-blowing. And it's all there, but I thought it was important to bring the highlights out of this. And I'm posting on Twitter and on X and on Truth Social.
Thank you,
so
Cleita.
that people can see these bullets. And of course, what has happened over the last 5 years? The powers that be, Brad Raffensperger, Chris Carr, the Attorney General, Brad Raffensperger, and Brian Kemp Brian Kemp did one thing at the beginning. One of the people who went and looked at all of this, took it to him and showed that from the original count to the hand recount that happens to confirm that the original numbers are correct, there were 6,691 fictitious ballots inserted into the certified total. That's still included in the total. So Joe Rossi from Georgia got the governor to send his people in. They confirmed that Joe Rossi was telling them correctly. Governor Kemp sends a letter over to the Secretary of State and the state election board and says, you need to investigate this. Did they investigate that?
No.
No, they did not. And then the state election board referred it to the Attorney General and said, well, you investigate. Did Chris Carr, the Attorney General, investigate?
Nope.
These are nearly 7,000 ballots or votes that have no ballots. There are no ballots to support that 7,000, which again is almost the entire margin between President Trump and Joe Biden.
All right, so amazing report from Cleita Mitchell. Make sure you're giving them a follow. Senior legal fellow at the Conservative Partnership Institute. She's over on X. Bring in a bunch of good news and reporting to us on this account at Cleita Mitchell. So we're going to repost this at the top of our timeline so that you can give her a follow and stay plugged in. But Cash was also out. He was asked questions about this last night over on Fox. And here is what the director of the FBI had to say about what they're working on over there in the Bureau.
From the FBI perspective and our partners at DOJ, we did the same thing there we do in any criminal case or investigation. We collected evidence. We presented that evidence to a federal magistrate judge who made a finding of probable cause and said, here's your search warrant, here are the parameters of that search warrant. And what you saw play out last week was the execution of that search warrant, just like we would do anywhere else. The target of that search warrant was a warehouse down in Fulton County. Federal agents from the FBI went down there and followed the parameters of the search warrant and secured the evidence. And from there, we maintain the chain of custody and do what we always do, which is to follow the evidence.
But the problem from the amazing. So Cash is explaining that they went to a different state, not Georgia, got a warrant over from Missouri, I believe, and then executed the seizure of these fraudulent documents. But you know how nervous they are. You can see it in this dude's face. He said arrests are coming. And here's more from the press conference. We'll play it out and see how this ends.
I received another call. Actually, it was this Monday. Same source saying that you guys can't relax.
No naps.
Even though the FBI has been there and they've confiscated the 700 boxes, arrests are coming. So
Yes.
we'll have to wait and see.
Chairman, can you talk about the state elections board has investigated and decided you do not take over the Fulton County Board of Elections. Are you worried now that the Trump administration is coordinating with the state elections board using this evidence to actually start?
That's certainly a possibility, and certainly something that I'm concerned about. And I think if they're able to do it here, that's why I say we're the epicenter, and we'll be the test case. If they're successful in Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia in particular, the others on that list of 15 plus states, they should be aware.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You should be aware, Jenna Griswold and AG Chris Mays and Katie Hobbs in Arizona and Dana Nessel in Michigan and the fraudsters in Wisconsin and everywhere else. Okay, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We saw what they did to Carrie Lake. We saw that Jenna Griswold changed all of the ballots or all of the machines, updated the BIOS firmware on voting systems days before the election so that none of the testing and validation of those machines could be completed in time. Testing and accuracy, I think it's TNA, and which also has a different meaning. But they changed the systems right before the elections occurred. And then, of course, Joe Biden wins in all these states. Democrats win in all these states.
Mr. Chairman, the fact that the president talked to some of the investigators while they were there, it seemed highly unusual.
Not really.
How did you react to hearing the news that the actual president of the United States called while that evidence was being taken?
Well, even before that, when Tulsi Gabbard showed up, that was a signal to me that this is bigger than just the confiscation of our records.
Oh, it is bigger.
And then we learned if he, in fact, has spoken with her and others, that's simply proof that this is bigger than just what appears to be the confiscation of our records.
Don't rig elections.
We've heard over and over again people calling this raid a voter intimidation tactic and that it's more about 2026 than 2020. What's your message to voters that might be concerned about their security or concerned about casting a vote in 2026?
Well, I think they should be concerned, and I'm concerned about it as well, because
you're going to jail?
2026 is going to be an important year with our Senate race. You know what the makeup is of the Senate, so it's going to be important, and anything that can be done to influence that, I think, is going to be done. And this is, I think, probably the first step in whatever they're going to do in order to depress voter participation, voter registration, making whatever changes they think are necessary to help their case in 2026, but more importantly in 2028.
Commissioner, you mentioned that you were told not to relax. And to be ready for potential arrest. Who was it that told you that?
Well, I won't disclose who told me that, but they are knowledgeable in D.C. So.
Knowledgeable in D.C. So we have a leaker in Washington who called him before the raid and then who called him after the raid and is warning him about all this, saying there are arrests coming. We love it.
The federal government?
Well, I won't say that.
Are you concerned about the investigation?
No, I am not. Because the truth is on our side.
No,
I have not done anything that would warrant an arrest. I'm not aware of anyone within our elections department.
That's what every criminal says right before they're arrested. Okay. No, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm clearly okay. Don Lemon's a pretty good example of that, for one.
Having done anything that would warrant arrest. We're simply doing our job. And again,
that's the problem. You didn't do your job. You guys were covering up an election, and then you all got promotions, and you all kept and maintained your power and installed an illegitimate candidate and illegitimate governors, and then judges got promoted, and the whole thing is rigged.
That I went to our elections hub the day that I got a telephone call at the FBI. So it was first and foremost to make sure that our employees were safe, and number two, to make sure that we complied with everything that the FBI was seeking. Because I have no issue with the FBI. They're doing their jobs.
That's right.
They're men and women who are doing their jobs.
That's right.
Hi guys, Chairman needs to step out for a minute. Thank you all so much for coming this morning.
All right, so that's Rob Pitts. He sounds very nervous, looks a little bit shaken up. They have now sued. They really want those files back, so that case is proceeding through the federal courts right now. He mentioned it is still under seal, and so we're going to keep our eyes on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as the fraud investigations continue. Now, we're not done yet. We got a bunch more fraud to talk about here. And this one is also a fun one because we've got fraud in Minnesota elsewhere. So here's this one in Minnesota. Democrats now freaking out because they have a backfire that is right on their doorstep. They were excited that Greg Bovino was thrown out of Minnesota. Tom Homan is coming in. And now Tom is creating some results. And he was out today in a press briefing and he said a bunch of things. We're going to listen to him talking about now how they're getting unprecedented cooperation from Minnesota law enforcement officials. But Jacob Frey, not happy with this. He says, 2,000 federal agents isn't a de-escalation. My ask remains the same. He says Operation Metro Surge needs to end. But J.D. Vance says there will be no surrender, not at all. He says the drawdown and body-worn cameras are a step in the right direction. Homan is saying they're pulling some people out. But 2,000 ICE officers still here is not de-escalation at all. My message to the White House has been consistent. Operation Metro Surge has been catastrophic for our residents, aka illegal aliens and businesses, and it needs to end immediately. But J.D. Vance says, no, we're not going anywhere there, bucko. He says no surrender on mass deportations. They call it a bloodbath. That's rich. Are you serious? Daily Mail, give us a break. They say Vance has insisted the White House is not backing down at all. Gave a wide-ranging interview. Of course, we've got the deaths of Renee Good and the insurgent Alex Preddy. Tom Homan has come in, and the question is the White House in retreat? Here's what JD said.
After the shooting, Tom Homan was sent in to sort of take over the immigration operation in Minneapolis.
Sure.
He said last week that we are going to do a drawdown in Minneapolis. Is the administration sort of backing away from mass deportations?
I don't believe that Tom said that. I believe that
So
he said
drawdown.
He said that they could do a drawdown so long as they got more cooperation from state and local officials, which has always been the policy of the Trump
But does
administration.
that indicate the administration's moving back on mass deportations?
No, it doesn't at all. I mean, look, we're not surrendering. We're not moving back on anything. We're just trying to actually encourage cooperation so that we get a little bit less chaos. If you remember, I went to Minneapolis a couple of days, I believe, before the Alex Preddy shooting. And what I said then is exactly what Tom Homan said after the shooting, which is that if we got more cooperation from state and local officials, we could actually have a much lower federal law enforcement presence. And that's what we want. I think it's important for everybody to appreciate, why are there so many federal law enforcement officers in Minneapolis? It's actually not to do immigration enforcement. Most of them are protecting the people who are doing immigration enforcement. So you've got a few people who will go out and say, arrest a guy, a sex predator, or somebody else who's violated the immigration laws or even additional laws on top of that. They're going to try to arrest that guy so that they can deport him. But because the local and state police have not been supporting them, if let's say a mob forms around them, they need somebody to protect those officers who engage in immigration enforcement.
But if local...
No, let me finish. That's where most of these guys, most of this additional law enforcement presence has come from. Look, if we got cooperation from Minneapolis police, from the state police, we would be happy, as Tom Homan and I've said, to draw down our law enforcement presence there, but we need cooperation in order to make this actually work.
But if they don't cooperate with you, sir, if local officials, if state officials refuse to cooperate with, what are you going to do about it?
Well, we're not going to give up on immigration enforcement.
Yeah, but what are you going to do in Minneapolis specifically?
Well, we're going to keep on doing immigration enforcement. We actually have gotten some cooperation from state and local law enforcement. Again, you're very smart. You're trying to get me to engage in a lot of hypotheticals, but the problem
That's not
is
hypothetical, sir. The president said he was willing to send in troops to Minneapolis to use the Insurrection Act. Is that still on the table?
Well, again, that's an if. If this thing happened, then another thing might happen. If a different thing happens, then another thing might happen. Let's actually focus on reality and what's happening on the ground. What we're doing is trying to draw the chaos down. And we could do that so long as we got some cooperation from state and local officials. There's a little bit of evidence they are starting to cooperate with us. For example, let's say you have an illegal immigrant, a sex offender who's in a county jail. We'd like to deport that person as soon as they get out of the county jail. 2 weeks ago, the state authorities, the local authorities were saying, we're not even going to let you know when this person gets out of prison. Now, they're saying they will let us know when that person gets out of prison so that we can deport them and get them out of our country. That's the kind of cooperation that we need to see more of. And yeah, if we see more of it, I think the chaos will come down. We'll continue to enforce our immigration laws. There will be less violence on America's streets, which is ultimately the goal here, to keep people safe. And I find it interesting that the people who are constantly attacking our immigration policy completely completely ignore that murders went down 20% in the United States of America in 2025? Do we think possibly there's a connection between the fact that we got a lot of violent criminals out of the United States of America with the fact that there are many fewer Americans getting killed? There's absolutely a connection, which is why we're not giving up on immigration enforcement.
Nice. So no surrender from JD.
Do you view Vice President
and there
JD
was
Vance
another clip here, which was a fun one, where this journo says, are you going to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy, the insurgent who was beating the back of federal agents' vehicles, hawking loogies on them, trying to instigate them and obstruct their efforts? Here's the response from JD, which was a good one.
Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him.
Do you plan to apologize to Preddy's family?
Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just described to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it is
he's
determined, if it's determined that his civil rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that
So if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical,
it's a real case
will
that's
I
open.
do a thing? And again, like I said, we're going to let the investigation.
Did you plan to apologize?
For what? We're sorry that he showed up and was insurrecting and acting as an insurgent in the middle of federal operations, that now he's dead, I guess. Maybe, he shouldn't have shown up there. But do you want us to now stop immigration enforcement? Is that your argument? So Tom Homan was out today, and he is explaining we have unprecedented cooperation. So all of this attempt now to kick ICE out seemingly is backfiring. Here was Homan
Attorney
from the press
General
conference today.
Mayor Fry and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks.
Nice.
We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets.
Great.
Unprecedented cooperation.
Nice.
And I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. This coordination also makes it far more safe for the Twin Cities.
Tom Homan in the House and explaining that it is now unprecedented. They're cooperating in various counties, which is what they should have been doing from the very beginning. But the Democrats are not happy about any of this. In fact, this was a wild clip here from Jerry Nadler, the Waddler, who has been in Congress forever, saying, if you don't like ICE, why don't you just shoot them?
But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But what is really...
Shoot the federal agent? JD says Jerry Nadler is one of the highest ranking Democrats in the House of Reps, and he is openly calling for people to shoot feds. This is despicable behavior from an elected official. Chris Mays in Arizona was doing the same thing, and I honestly think that they want that to happen, which is why they're saying it. I'm sure the left-wing media will cover it extensively. No, they won't. They'll just say Trump is kidnapping people off the street, not that the Democrats are encouraging murder of federal agents. Now, we're also learning that Renee Good was, in fact, in one of these signal groups. Big surprise, I know. Andy No says confirmation that she was indeed a member of the extremist signal secret chat network that is organizing the insurgency in Minneapolis. Another account with matching details to the deceased armed radical Alex Preddy was also discovered last week. Here's Christina Button says, I have identified an account using the same name and photo of Renee Good in the Defend 612 Signal neighborhood chat, right where she lived. After her death and the media attention that followed, organizers began encouraging everybody else in these chats to use nicknames and go anonymous for greater anonymity. There she is. Another insurgent in the group who was obstructing federal agents and then, in her case, attempting to run him over with her car after she got a lawful order to get out of the vehicle. It goes on and on and on. And now they're saying that their side should shoot the federal agents, according to Jerry Nadler, because they're lunatics. So while all this is happening, we have appeals going up to various courts, and the Fifth Circuit has now just come down and split earlier this week. Said a 3-judge panel of the Fifth Circuit appeared to be divided yesterday. Oral arguments occurred, don't have a ruling yet, but there are policy changes. Cases have been so numerous that people are freaking out about the case work. So there's a prosecutor who's in the DOJ who has just been relieved of her duty after she had a meltdown in court. Wild story. Justice Department lawyer told a judge in an immigration case, this job sucks. Here's the background. DOJ removed a government lawyer. She was assigned in Minnesota. She went into court, told a federal judge, this job sucks. Her name is Julie Lee. She's a lawyer for Homeland, and she's overwhelmed, saying the District of Minnesota got hundreds of lawsuits. And by the way, these lawsuits are being brought by the ACLU gangbang lawyers or by groups like Acacia Justice, right? That get billions of dollars or at least hundreds of millions from the federal government and then pay for illegal aliens to sue to exploit our own justice system for their benefit. They've already broken the laws. They've already rejected our national sovereignty. Now they want to come in and then claim our same constitutional privileges that are reserved for citizens to protect them from being deported. So they're suing ACLU lawyers, tons of money getting dumped into this. But a judge out there named Jerry, he ordered her and another lawyer to appear before them. Then she told the judge that the judge is like, asking her a bunch of questions. She's like, well, I stupidly volunteered for this job. She says to the judge, what do you want me to do? You want these records? She says, the system sucks. This job sucks. DOJ spokesperson said the Trump admin was complying with the judge's orders, but we got high caseloads. We've got rogue judges, but they cut her assignment short. Don't know if she went to a different position or whatever. She said, I work days and nights. I'm trying to ensure that we're complying with your orders. It is stressful, a little stressful, which they have not done in the past or currently. She said to the judge, she told the judge this, sometime I wish you would just hold me in contempt, Your Honor, so that I can have a full 24 hours of sleep. Like lock me up, throw me in jail. 6 prosecutors have also resigned, and the illegals and their ACLU lawyers are, causing DOJ prosecutors to lose their minds. Lee said, I also have concerns. Oh, it's a dude? This is a guy? Oh my gosh, that makes it way worse. This is a male person who's having this meltdown. He said that he wants to be held in contempt. He was appointed, the judge was appointed by Joe Biden. He shared his concerns about how immigration cases were being handled. Oh, it's a she, sorry. I'm not white, as you can see, she said. And my family's at risk as any other people that might get picked up too. So I share the same concern, and I took that concern to heart. All right, so she's not white. She's having a meltdown. She doesn't like immigration enforcement. She should go get a job with Mark Elias, having a meltdown over there. Now, meanwhile, while all this is happening, what I'm explaining is that our government is facilitating and funding the illegal alien defense operation completely. And Kami Mamdani from New York is now offering free legal services to the Haitians. Okay, so now they, as we talked about yesterday, are fighting for a TPS status, and a judge called Anna C. Reyes, a lesbian judge, historic. That's why I bring that up, because it's historic, She who was born in Uruguay, also foreign-born judge, said that you can't cancel TPS status. Temporary doesn't mean temporary at all. It means that you have to allow the Haitians to stay here permanently, and if you try to remove them, you're a racist bigot. That's like literally her opinion. So now Kami Mamdani is now also doing the same thing, right? Saying, we'll literally pay for your status to be preserved in our state because they're insane over there.
In limbo for the last year. To Haitian New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. If you have temporary protected status, you've been forced to live in limbo for the last year, unsure whether this country would allow you to stay and build your lives with dignity.
It's not really unclear. It's time to go home. Temporary means temporary. The big earthquake that started this whole thing was 15 years ago.
Temporary protected status for Haitians was set to end today, February 3rd.
Nice.
Last night, a federal judge temporarily blocked that termination while the case moves forward.
Foreign-born lesbian.
But let's be clear. The federal government will appeal, and this temporary protection is not permanent.
That's right.
You deserve stability and safety, and New York City stands with you. Right now, we urge you to speak with an immigration lawyer and explore every possible legal pathway you may qualify for, whether asylum, adjustment of status, or any other path to permanent residency. New York City offers free, trusted immigration legal support with services in over 200 languages. You can call directly by calling this number. City Hall stands with you.
The American populace is paying for lawyers for illegal aliens who have been adjudicated, according to Homeland, removable. TPS status now canceled. Go home. It's temporary. You've had plenty of time to save up some money and go build your home country. So you can see what the DOJ is. Normally, you would say the DOJ is a massive institution and they can handle all of this, but every single state, all these various states are self-funding these things, creating an onslaught against the DOJ lawyers. Now, the police in Minnesota and Minneapolis have basically had enough. Liz Collins shared this one. Here's a statement from the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis. They say, we don't support private individuals or groups establishing unauthorized checkpoints. Now they're creating blockades there in Minneapolis, or patrol zones. No one has the legal authority to stop or detain anyone. These actions obstruct traffic, they interfere with emergency access, they create safety risks, and police officers have a duty to address these things. Now, regardless of the cause that's being advanced. Officers enforcing basic traffic and safety laws are not taking sides in political disputes. We're trying to prevent chaos. Rank and file officers are placed in an impossible position. They're expected to preserve public safety, keep streets passable, prevent confrontations from escalating. But when officers move in and request the illegal blockades be removed, they are not met with cooperation. The Minnesotans are coming at them with open hostility. Yeah, how does it feel? Verbal abuse, non-compliance, individuals intent on escalating confrontation rather than restoring public safety. It's not just about ICE. These are insurgents. They don't like any authority. We have seen officers unfairly targeted online in public discourse, not ICE officers, local cops, for trying to restore access to the streets, preventing dangerous confrontations, and doing the job the public expects of them. Vilifying our officers makes an already volatile situation even more difficult and undermines public safety. Our officers should not be scapegoated for keeping Minneapolis safe. Of course, peaceful protest is a constitutional right, but impersonating law enforcement, conducting stop and frisk, and physically blocking public roadways is not. The city of Minneapolis should take an assertive and aggressive stance on stopping these illegal blockades and enforce the laws before someone gets seriously hurt. And here's just one of the blockades. Look at this. F ICE, no honking. They're taking over the streets. So if this continues and the local cops are unable to do anything and the feds are unable to do anything, have we lost the whole city? Is this what Mayor Jacob Frey and Tim Walz ultimately want? Maybe it is. Now, here's more. They are now saying that they have officials in these ICE chats. This woman admitted it. Marcia Howard, head of Minneapolis Teachers Union, admits that elected officials are in these anti-ICE groups. And we already covered this a long time ago when the whole thing broke out. We saw, allegedly, Lieutenant Governor Patty Flanagan, the second in command under Tim Walz, who was allegedly in one of these groups. And now we're getting more confirmation from a teachers union head that that is true.
With Al Jazeera, the head of a Minneapolis teachers union, well, she proudly admits that elected officials are in signal chats. They're being used to share information about where these federal agents are. Listen.
the notion that people that are actively engaged in ICE Watch, in being vigilant in protecting our neighbors, in signal chat groups, running plates in their cars, doing patrols, that somehow we're ashamed of that activity, that somehow you could call our bosses or show our faces and then we would be shunned by our community. Our bosses are in the signal chats with us. Our elected officials are in the chats with us.
Wow.
And I have reached out to the mayor and governor's office to get their reaction to that, Dana.
Yeah, are you guys in there? Because we thought we saw your names in there. And now you have somebody who's in there saying that, yep, you're definitely in there. Feels like a coordinated insurgency. And remember, 19 people got indicted for working with the President Trump when they said that he was trying to steal an election. RICO case. Big Fanny brought it. Where are the red AGs bringing these claims against the fraud that's happening in their states? Of course, Minnesota has Keith Ellison, so that's going to be a non-starter. But they're actively involved in all of it. And the fraud is way worse than you even could possibly imagine. In fact, Dr. Oz is saying it's 13,000% worse than you ever thought. Here is exactly how he explained it on with Newsmax.
Are stealing the care that Americans deserve. Let's switch to Minnesota for a second. Minnesota expected to spend $3 million for autism. It's now $400 million. Why? Because everybody in the community signed their kids up as though they're autistic. Why? You were paying them. These moms literally took bribes to lie that their kids had autism. Rob, if one child in the neighborhood has autism, they get care, they get support, we can give them money. If every kid in the neighborhood has autism, nobody has autism because you can't get to a provider. Right. And we have
we've seen some of the folks out there and how they how they operate. But that's a lot. I'm not sure that every single Somalian is autistic, but they say that they are. So the president was also out today. We got that Renee Good post and more from Tom Homan. Tom Homan says Trump is not backing down on this. He made a promise. Immigration enforcement will continue every single day until it's completed. Here's Tom.
For those who are not a national security threat or public safety risk, you are not exempt from immigration enforcement actions. If you're in the country legally, you are not off the table. And let me be clear, President Trump fully intends to achieve mass deportations during this administration, and immigration enforcement actions will continue every day throughout this country. President Trump made a promise, and we have not directed otherwise. I heard rumors we have, untrue. Given that many public safety threats on our communities, many of which poured across the border during the Biden administration, it makes sense to prioritize public safety risks right now. Again, prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody else. But we have a criminal here, a non-criminal here. The criminal has to be arrested first because they're the biggest threat to the community.
Exactly right. And the enforcement will continue. Eric Schmidt was out. He's a senator from Missouri. We had a Judiciary Committee hearing today, and apparently there was some NGO co-president of a Soros-funded group who was there, Eric Schmidt, digging into testimony with him.
Are deportations racist?
Are deportations racist? It depends. They can be racist, okay. Sure.
Is ICE racist?
I think the practices of ICE right now are abhorrent and should be abhorrent, exactly as you said, for American values. I think the practices of ICE right now are...
But ICE itself, the organization, is a racist.
The enforcing immigration and customs laws per se is not racist. What ICE actually is doing, I believe, can fairly be characterized as racist. Yes, sir.
All right. I asked this because we did a little bit of digging into Public Citizen and found two things. One is you're funded by George Soros.
Oh, of course.
Correct?
The Open Society Foundation is one of our funders, yes.
And you call just about everything you don't like racist.
That's all.
That is not true. But
okay, well, I'm going to give you a few examples.
Sure.
On December 11th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that the banking sector as a whole is racist. On August 17th, 2021, Public Citizen sent in a press release that algorithmic racism was a major problem and that we need to start creating anti-racist algorithms. On December 23rd, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that our healthcare system is a racist abomination. On April 7th, 2023, Public Citizen tweeted that expelling 2 Tennessee state reps for violating the legislature's rule was racism. On April 15th, 2021, Public Citizen tweeted that law enforcement in this country has been overrun by racism. On June 25th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, racism is the reason DC is not a state. On January 15th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that asking about citizenship status on the census was racist.
We know, yeah.
On August 24th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, defund our racist, hyper-militarized, murderous American police force. On July 10th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that law and order is a racist dog whistle. Do you stand by these statements?
Well, I appreciate the depths of which you've gone of research. In the context of all those statements, yes, sir.
So all of those things are racist?
If you want to go through them, we can talk.
So here's,
sure.
I'm really glad. No, hold on.
David,
I'm glad for this moment of clarity because a lot of witnesses would try to sidestep that.
That's correct.
But what you have shown in the questioning we've seen before, in just these examples, the public interest isn't your interest at all. It is not your interest at all. You use racism as an attempt to intimidate people to get your way. And it's not 2020 anymore. The American people are over it. So what you're going to find is we're going to prosecute, and it has nothing to do with race. We're going to prosecute because fraud was committed on a level that is so offensive to this country. Your words that don't mean anything aren't going to stop what's coming. And I want you to take that back to George Soros and all these ridiculous funders you have to try to muddle the issue because justice is coming. And by the way, if I have it my way, we will denaturalize all these fraudsters and send them home.
Yes!
Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time.
Oh, shout out to Eric Schmidt, man. That's exactly right. That racist crap, it doesn't work anymore. Oh, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe, whatever. It's like water off a duck's back. Doesn't even matter. Used to matter when it actually meant something, like when actually racist people were called out for being racist, but now it's for everything. Everything that you do, you're going to get attacked for it, and it just doesn't matter anymore. They've actually kind of wrecked their own words in that regard by calling everybody a racist or homophobic or transphobic or whatever one of their stupid words are. No one cares. Kristi Noem was also out. She says, look at this beautiful border wall, explaining in Trump's first year back in office, we delivered the most secure border in American history, and we did so in the immediate aftermath of Joe Biden's coordinated invasion. Thank you to the men and women of CBP, ICE, law enforcement, and the military for your sacrifice to secure our southern border, restore national pride, confidence, and protect your fellow citizens. And now it's time to deport everybody to the other side of the wall.
Hi, everybody. We're here in Nogales, and we just left a ceremony where we recognized some outstanding Border Patrol agents, but also talked about the fact that we've had 1 year of a secure border under President Trump. Having a secure border means that our laws are enforced, that we have cut fentanyl deaths in our country by over 30%, that we have the lowest murder rate in our nation's history, and that America is safe again. We're continuing to thank President Trump for his strength and leadership in making sure that our border is secure and for giving us a wall that can continue to do that for generations to come. Hi, everybody.
Big,
we're here in Nogales.
Beautiful wall from Kristi Noem and Eric Schmidt and others. The enforcement will continue. J.D. Vance says no surrender. Democrats very unhappy about this. Nadler saying, just shoot them. Just shoot them if you don't like them. But the enforcement will continue and the fraud will be rooted out. And we're going to be here to continue until every single bit of it is done. What a beautiful day it has been, my friends. Thank you for joining us on today's show. If you're just getting here, we had a banger of a first segment. Golly. This guy, Rob Pitts, the chairman out there in Fulton County, said arrests are coming. He got 2 phone calls from over in Washington. Don't know who that person is who is leaking. Hopefully they find out who that is. But they said a raid is coming. The raid occurred. Now they're saying arrests are coming, and we're looking forward to those. So lots of reaction to that. And man, we had some interesting reveals today. Something I did not know was that Scott McAfee, according to Badlands Media and AI research, says that Scott McAfee, the guy who presided over the RICO case with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, was the same inspector general who was basically brought evidence about fraud, didn't do anything with it. Pretty wild what's happening there in Florida and Georgia. So we see there was a great report here from badlands.substack.com. Make sure you're giving them a follow and appreciating this amazing reporting. We also had, of course, a report from Cleita Mitchell, which was another burner, explaining in detail all of the problems and how they were counting ballots after the election was over. And magically, we got 150,000, give or take, new ballots that just showed up and reversed the outcome of the entire election. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And our friend over here, Rob, he said the same thing. This is much bigger than just Georgia, and other states we know are just rigged as can be. Arizona, Colorado, and more. So Sidney Powell reacted to this. We talked about the SAVE Act. We had Kash Patel in the house before we swapped over to Minnesota and reminded ourselves about just how bad these people actually are. Tom Homan saying they're making good progress. They've got unprecedented cooperation. JD Vance saying no surrender. Renee Good was in fact in one of the secret signal groups filled with the insurgents. JD Vance says, why should we apologize that Alex Preddy got himself killed? Not our problem. And here, the DOJ removing a lawyer who just had a meltdown in court, saying they're being overwhelmed by all of the lawsuits. The police have had enough. We also saw this clip here where they're admitting that elected officials are also in these signal chats as part of this insurgency. 13,000% increase in autism requests out there in Somalia. We heard Banana and Rice, though. You know, she's a little off. Maybe she needs some services. With no disrespect to anybody with autism or autistic kids. We love, of course, everyone who's afflicted with, something like that. And we saw more from Andy No. We saw Tom Homan. We had Eric Schmidt with a burner, and Kristi Noem is down at the border, TCBing, aka taking care of business. And so now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And thanks for being here. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, we'd love it if you would do that so that when we come back tomorrow, we see you back here and we never miss you again. We also have a great members only community as well. We do members only streams in the morning. This morning, we talked about a bunch of good stuff. Can't even remember what it was, but it was so good. We'd love to have you as a member. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another members only stream. We'll see you back over there. You can sign up on YouTube, on Locals, and be sure to check out our Substack too, where we post show notes and links and show notes and all the documents over there for your convenience. But now, my friends, let us hear from you and see what you say about all of this. I saw some great donos in. Thank you for supporting our work. Thanks for being a part of the show and for sharing your perspective and your support. We had some great comments, man. Oh yeah, this morning we talked about Billie Eilish. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was fun. Pocahontas. Billie Eilish is living on stolen land, if you didn't know that. Yeah, the Tongva tribe. That's their land. And so she should give it back. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was a lot of fun this morning. We had a good time. Today, enjoy the show from President. Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'll have 2 scoops. Yeah, a little salt, little butter, not too much. Sure, yeah, let's go. That sounds good. Thank you for that. Granny Joe, what's up, Granny Joe? You've been a member for 20 months, Granny Joe? You're amazing. Thank you for being here for so long and for upgrading your membership. We really appreciate that, Granny Joe. You rock. Thanks for being here. We love our grannies. We have the best grannies here. Black Dragon, what's up? Flaming Black Dragon? Finally, something is getting done. Yeah, and that guy sounded nervous. And he looked nervous. It was so he just doesn't look comfortable. And anytime, as I said, anytime somebody's like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, he should go on Keith Ellison and do a podcast with Keith Ellison, just like Don Lemon did. Good to see you, Black Dragon. Hey, that's 2 babies and then a month. Thank you for being here. Flaming Black Dragon. I remember that from that movie with Tom Cruise with the giant hands. And he says, that phone call is epic. That was a great scene. John Libby, do you think that the voting machine info, Mike Lindell, Tucker, Fox, etc., will be able to sue for money lost by Dominion? Thanks, Rob. Your streams are amazing. Man, thank you, John Libby. Thank you for the compliment. Thanks for being a membo. Yeah, so I think those were voluntary settlements, right? So I don't know about Lindell, but I know Tucker and Fox, that was a voluntary settlement. So I don't know that Tucker would be able, I don't think Tucker really has a claim against whom? Who would we be suing? Like the state or suing Dominion? Yeah, I'm trying to think about like who's the victim. Mike Lindell obviously has been abused completely and lost a lot in sacrifice of a greater cause, and we appreciate that. Tucker, I think, was, allegedly fired for some reason. I don't know that it had anything to do with the elections or the settlement. That's kind of the justification for it. But it may have been, Israel. It may have been something, something like deeper than just the 2020 election. And you're starting to kind of see Tucker and the fracture occur. It might have been something like that. But could Tucker sue Dominion for, damages? I'm not sure. I don't know what his claim would be. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. This is kind of a government problem. So would he sue Fulton? Would he sue the government? Would he sue Georgia? Would he sue Brian Kemp? They'll turn around and all say qualified immunity and sovereign immunity and all the things. So really our recompense, our remedy is jail. That's what we want. So money's a good thing, but we want jail. This old guy, and thanks for the dono, John Libby. Thanks for the good question. Had to noodle on that one. This old guy, well, at least we know Maduro won't be voting in the midterms. No, he won't. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe somebody in Georgia has a ballot for him and they'll submit it for him. You never know. They have a lot of extra ballots down there. Good to see you, this old guy. Hey, Washington State Jags fan. What's going on? Jag Power in the house. Thanks for the nice dono. Said, if it is proven Biden was not elected president and Trump actually won 2020 for president, is there any chance that every dumb thing that Joe did can be reversed, including district judges and SCOTUS appointment? Yeah, I mean, that's the question of the ages. And I don't think that we're going to get like a blanket reversal. So I think a question like this is going to come down to practicalities. What is already happening? Like, is it worth just invalidating the entire 4 years? And like, what would that look like? So you physically, practically like have to go and unwind a bunch of things. So I think that it's probably going to happen piecemeal, right? So you would say kind of like what Trump is doing. Trump is saying the auto pen is invalid and he's just kind of canceling some of his policies. But I think Trump would have to take action on this. So like, for example, I think the biggest one would be Ketanji. Joe Biden appointed Ketanji. What if we could get a Supreme Court seat? We say Joe Biden is invalid for two reasons. One, the auto pen is invalid. Number two, the whole presidency was stolen. So now Trump says, Trump comes out and says, I'm going to go appoint, some volitional action. He's going to take a step. Ketanji's invalid. I'm going to nominate a new Supreme Court judge. Like we have to go through the practicalities of it. And then he nominates, because she's in there right now. She's not going to voluntarily leave, so we have to force her out. So then we bring in a new nominee, Robert Gouveia, for the Supreme Court. Woo, that'd be fun. And so we go through it. They say, what do we do? We want confirmation hearings. The Senate says no, whatever. We got to get the Senate involved in it. You sue to invalidate her. It's got to go through the courts. Does that case go up to the Supreme Court? She recuses herself. Maybe we get a 6-2 decision to remove her or something, right? And it does invalidate the actual, 4 years. Auto pen, she's invalid. The presidency, she's invalid. So I think you'd have to go attack every single policy change. And would you get the Senate and the House to agree? Would you get the Supreme Court to agree? I doubt it on a lot of it. A lot of them will just say, well, it's done already. Let bygones be bygones. But it's a battle that I think we're willing to have. Let's go, right? Let's see what we can do about Ketanji and the rest of the appointees, the judicial appointees. Like, we should just scrape through the entire judiciary with a fine-tooth comb and just invalidate all of those illegally appointed judges for the last 4 years. Nope, you're appointed by Joe Biden. Uruguayan lesbian? No. Your order's invalid. Your appointment was invalid. Joe Biden had no capacity to do that. And so we're not following your decisions. I don't know. It sounds like it's going to be fun. Hey, Mock Schnell. What a nice dono. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Always so generous. Says, wow, Robert. So happy for you and Alexis. Congrats on your bundle of joy that is on the way. Just remember to always do what is right for her and your child. Yeah, that's basically my philosophy. I mean, I really don't even care about myself at all. So whatever. But we do have a new baby coming in the house, baby. And we just had a doctor's appointment today, and we got to hear the heartbeat again. And doctor poked around, said this baby's moving around in there. And every time I hear that heartbeat, I go, Huh? It's coming. There's a baby in there. It's crazy and it's coming fast. I'm super excited about it. Also, a little freaked out, but it's good. Yeah, it's all good. We're stable here. Hey, good to see you. Thank you, Mach Schnell. Super nice of you. Thank you for the nice dono. It is going to be a beautiful, beautiful new chapter. I'm very excited about it. I feel very blessed as a person. Thank you for that great advice. We're going to need a lot of it. I need it. She doesn't. Randy Smith, what's going on? Welcome aboard, Randy. Grab the members only stream from this morning. We talked about some Epstein stuff this morning with JD Vance and the Royals. That was a good segment. We talked about Billie Eilish. Oh, and we had a spicy debate this morning about Janine Pirro. NY Renal on Locals was giving me some pushback about my take on Janine Pirro and the gun battle that's going on out there. And it was a good debate. I think it was a very good debate. Thank you, NY Renal, for that. Pat Powell, what's going on? New dono in the house, no comment, but just a nice, peaceful pair. Thank you, Pat. Very nice of you to do that. Thanks for being here. Mach Schnell. Oh, my goodness, Mach Schnell. 50 membos in the house. Welcome aboard. So new membos, grab the stream from this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Arizona, 8 a.m. California to start the day off right. Grab your coffee. Let's get into the news. Who's here? Ugly Casanova. Welcome. Well, I don't think you're very ugly at all. Skies on high. Sharon, FFS for F's sake. The Zeke is here. Steve is here. Craigslist. What's up? Ozzy Crosby. We got Aurelius Gladius here. Faustman, Violet Trey Lofi. Jane says, what's up, Rebecca McCarter? The Postulio Zophius in the house. Your Hamlet is here. Valerie's Schlink here. Welcome. Redhead Angel. We got Jared G, Drunken Cowboy, Brandon, CMC Jin, Rangy Ahad, Boss Prolick. Boss Pro LLC, rather. TJ's here. Jackie Wood, Dean Quinto. The Marquise of Chuck is here. Abby Twin, Randy's retired. Congrats. Greenleaf, GDV, Rebecca Worth, Christina B. All in the house. And Greg says, hey, Mach Schnell, every time I get frustrated, I buy another roll of Mercury dimes. It got so bad a few years ago, I had to buy Gold Eagles to feel better. I then laughed when I retired with all of that. Amazing. Caitlin Wonderlands, Gia Movney. We got Henry Deller Finn, Michael Courtney. What's up, Crimson Mimi? We got Scorpio Angel in the house. Reluctant Critic Dude. Barb Brumfield. We got Larry Marceau and Just Rhonda in the house. Amazing. We got Sam Spade. What's up? One Small Wildflower, Lavender Gal. We got Sour Diesel, Nilo, No Name Jojo, and Jane Monroe all in the house. Man, 50 new membos. Welcome aboard. Grab the stream from this morning if you're looking for some other stuff to dig into, or just join us tomorrow morning and on Saturdays too. We'll see you on Saturday. Chubby, hey, says the Georgia election dude says, well, I have no problem with the FBI. They're just doing their jobs, but I'm going to sue and file a complaint so that I can, undermine their jobs and get our files back. Yeah, just like on ICE, but I bet he spouts a different opinion on them. Yeah, he doesn't. He has a problem with the FBI. He thinks that what they did was stealing their records, which is why he's filing a complaint. Then he comes out and says, well, no, they're just doing their jobs. Then why didn't you just give them the files when they asked for them? Says, after the last comments by Walls and Frey, I don't think any agents should be withdrawn. Teach them that their blatantly violent and insurrectionist rhetoric needs to stop as well. Yeah, it's almost like you want it, you got it, right? Oh, you don't want the feds there? Okay, so your people, your insurgents, I don't know if they're Minnesotans or if they're coming in from around the world or what. Seems like it's kind of a repeat thing up there. But you don't want us there, and the cops can't handle these situations, so they're just going to take over the streets, I guess. Thanks, Chubby. Hey, what's up? Ed is here. Hey. What does a gay horse eat? Hay is what it eats. Hey, Ed says Rottenberger and Carr need to go to prison. That's a dad joke, I think. I don't know if it's a dad joke, because do you joke? I don't know. If a recount without fraudulent votes is done, can both Democrat Georgia senators, another one, right? You remove them. But that would have to come from the state. Like Kemp or the governor would have to say, actually, you're invalid. I'm going to go appoint somebody to replace you. Like, I don't think the president can appoint a new senator. So, but it's a good question, right? If it's invalid, they should both be invalidated. Immediately replaced by Republicans who won the election. And I think they're in the Trump administration now, right? Isn't Perdue and the other woman, I think she runs the SBA. They're over there now. They're in the administration. So maybe Trump can just say, actually, we're putting them in as the new senators. and then they can sue him to say, you can't do that. Yeah, it's going to be a battle. But it's not like, I don't see any real process by which like 4 years of policy are all invalidated with the stroke of a pen, unless SCOTUS, issued an order like that. But that would be like unprecedented and completely unlikely, I would say. Hey, Phil Holloway, he's over there in Georgia. Man, he does great reporting. He's a lawyer. We love Phil. Georgia Senate to subpoena Fani Willis and the special prosecutor Nathan Wade. Let's go. Amazing. So Nathan Wade got a subpoena? Perfect, man. That's great. Yeah, they're facing repercussions now. It's going to be beautiful. Emperor Trajan. There we go. Yep, we covered that one. Renee Good was, in fact, an insurgent, as we all knew. Weekend in Vegas. Good to see you. Left cries about the high cost of living, yet they fight to keep illegals here that directly up their cost of living with higher housing, rental, auto, health insurance rates. Completely. Yeah, it's just, basic economics, supply and demand. When there's more demand and there's not a supply to fill that demand, prices go up. When you bring in 20 million people, they all need to live somewhere. They all need to get education somewhere. And then your goods and services diminish and they get more expensive. And you're paying for them to stay here. We're getting ripped off. Imagine if we actually invested in our own populace and in our own infrastructure rather than paying for illegal aliens' lawyers. Gauntlet KI. Can feds arrest the immune cover-up appointed judge? Yeah, that's a separate thing. Yeah, I mean, if these guys were part of a conspiracy, like a RICO case, absolutely. DOJ can prosecute all of them. And like there can be massive prosecutions, but again, like the convictions, what will the convictions lead to outside of just penalties for those convicted? Will that reverse the last 4 years just automatically? No. But we'll get justice for the people who committed those crimes. Object Class Keeter, nice to see you. 29 months as a member, man. Almost at that big 3-0. Says ICE masks, Antifa masks. Such hypocrisy. Yeah, and the masks on the ICE agents are so that they don't get attacked and followed home and murdered, which is part of their plan. Hey, they're shooting at them. Object Class Keeter says, how will the New York City mayor pay for the lawyers for the illegals when he was complaining about the huge deficit? That's a financial question. They don't care about those questions. That's ridiculous. What are you? Do you hate Haitians? Are you a racist person? Spending more money they don't have. New York City gets worse. Yeah, and I've seen their streets right now. There's trash piled up all over the place. They're completely broke. Mom Donnie is calling for higher taxes. Kathy Hochul said, we're not going to do that. We're already losing people due to the taxes that are already too high. So I think he just likes to say things for his stupid constituency who just says, wow, Mom Donnie's representing Haitians now. Where'd that money come from? You. Yeah, Gauntlet. Remember the Bush election movie? We need one for this. Which one was that? Is it not the Michael Moore movie? Yeah, I remember some Bush election movie. Was that Michael Moore? I don't think I saw it. King of Biltong says, this isn't just biltong, it's premium meat. Real craftsmanship, clean ingredients, all made in-house and sold direct. So check it out at biltongusa.com. And when you go over there, use code Robert. You'll save 10% off and get some creatine-packed meat. Emperor Trajan. They just released the new White House seating chart. Why are the Democrat propagandists who hate America and MAGA voters in the front row? Because they're the biggest, probably. They have the biggest reach. NBC, Fox, CBS, AP, ABC, Reuters, CNN, USA, New York Times, Washington Post, NPR, Bloomberg, Wall Street, AFP. Who's in the back? Axios, iHeartMedia. What is this? Black Press, Daily Wire, and The Telegraph all subbing in. That's an interesting chart. You know what we need right here? Watching the watchers right here, front and center. Screw the AP. Hey, Object Class Keeter. The GOP claims that blacks can get ID. I think they can. I'm pretty sure. GOP claims not all Somalians are autistic. That's also probably true. Dems disagree within both. Think about that. Republicans are the racists. No, I know Kamala Harris said that rural voters, and they're talking about, she didn't say blacks in that one clip, but they've said that historically. It disenfranchises minority communities because they can't get IDs or drive their car to a Kinko's or something. So, I think the Democrats are extremely racist. They treat everybody based on their skin color and their sexual orientation more than they care about a person's innards and their soul and their heart and their brain and their spirit. It's the only thing they see. And if they don't like you, they just call you a racist because that's their only counter. Indoctrination, man, good to see you. Very nice to see you. Indoctrination has raided this stream. Yeah. Yeah, so Scott McAfee wasn't the IG at the time of the election, but after the election, when the follow-up was happening, when all of the investigations were happening, he was the inspector general. He was tasked with overseeing fraud and corruption. Obviously did a terrible job at that. Then once he covered it up, Kemp then appointed him to replace a retired judge. So during 2020, he was not there. But when all of the follow-up, when all of the investigations and lawsuits and allegations of fraud were occurring, he was there. Thank you, Dan, for the details. Hey, Procrastination Station. Thanks for all the hard work, Rob. Man, thank you, Procrastination. It's really an honor to spend time with you and go through this stuff together. It really is. It's a treat. I love it. Thank you for that. And thanks for making it possible and for supporting us, Procrastination. Dan, in 2019, McAfee was appointed as an assistant U.S. attorney in Georgia for the feds. He worked in the criminal division in 19, where he investigated and prosecuted fraud. Amazing. Thank you, Dan. Then he covered it up, got appointed as a judge, and then was trying to save Fanny's Fanny. It all makes sense now. Turbo and Tabulator, their fear is making me drool, Rob. I know you could taste it. I was like giddy today. I was like smiling ear to ear the whole show. I'm like, you just don't act like you've been here before, you know? Stop being so excited. I can't help it. Swap part. I think the auto pen appointments could be reversed. Now, as for the entire presidency, Pence, the appeaser, certified it, right? So maybe that's the other response to that. Like once it's certified, it's done. It's on the books. But auto pen, judges, U.S. attorneys, they're all gone. But Ketanji, think about the other judges, all like the Uruguay, Amir Ali from Canada, and more. Invalid. Get them out. Hey, what's going on? Bill Dozer. Good to see you, Bill. Congrats, Rob. Praying for a healthy pregnancy and a newborn that sleeps well. Me too. That sounds good. Yeah, that does sound good. Yeah, things are on track, Bill. So knock on wood. Keep praying for all the things to work out. And thank you, Bill. We're excited about it. Hey, thank you, Flea Speech. Congrats with baby Bobby G. Love from Denmark. Man, shout out to our friends in Denmark. I've not been over there. I'd love to go check it out, though. Thank you, Flea Speech. We're excited. Baby coming soon. I'm in my prime is here. One old guy. Good to see you. Says, Bully Boolish, I think that's Billie Eilish, is so brave to say what she did, given all the brave sacrifice for the land her houses are built on. Well, it's not stolen land if it's her house, okay? It's only if it's you. Hey, Dan, regarding the state of Georgia and counties like Fulton, the rig was in on it. Everywhere, everyone were given their marching orders from on high. 2020 was the most perfect election of all time, according to them, not according to reality. Thank you, Dan. One old guy. A New York City mayor can be removed from office primarily by the governor of New York or through a specialized inability committee established by the city charter. Hochul won't, but might if Mamdani continues to screw up. Yeah, I remember that debate with Mayor Adams, right? He got like indicted by Joe Biden, and then Hochul was arguing that she should remove him, and then she never did. And then Mamdani won, who, ran the candidate with the hat on against them. I don't think she will. Mamdani's too popular. They love the guy. Even if he wrecks the whole city, it's like, at least it's their guy wrecking the city. That's how they think. John, any news from the Tyler Robinson motion hearing yesterday? Not that I've seen there, John. Yeah, that was the motion to disqualify the entire county. I have not seen that. I did see Andrea Burkhart. She's covering that a lot over on YouTube. So shout out to her for staying on that. Andrea Burkhart, I think, is doing great reporting on that, which is what I saw come across my feed. But I don't think that there was a decision on the disqualification. I don't think it's obviously that they're going to get disqualified, but could be wrong about that. I saw a clip of the defense trying to like dig into a witness about DNA evidence, but no, I'm not up to speed on it. My apologies, John. Wish I had a better answer for you over there. But I'll look into it, and maybe we can hit it tomorrow morning on the members only stream, baby. We got some YouTube comments. I'm sorry, some locals comments from The Veil and Turbo. The Veil says, one of the weird things that keeps coming up from time to time is about marriages and green cards. I wonder how much ICE and federal prosecutors have been dealing with this. One major case was about this person. How many marriages are fraudulent and are sham marriages happening all across the country? Tons, I would imagine, just tons. Yeah, it's probably rampant. And Turbo, maybe the Tongva tribe should file a quiet title action to take Billie Eilish's mansion. Yeah, and this morning we talked about there's a law firm in LA who said they're ready. They have an eviction notice. They're ready to file it against her. And it shouldn't even be litigious. Like, she says she's on stolen land, so get out. Argue that her recorded admission, was a constructive reconveyance of title. File a Liz pendens on her mansion and cloud its title so she can't sell it and can't ignore it. Here's the payoff. That would make her attorneys defend her ownership by refuting everything she said about stolen land. That'd be hilarious. None of these celebrities will ever open their pie holes about stolen land again. Yeah, and this morning, there's a man from Australia who's going to fly over from Australia. He's like raising money to take a trip, and he's going to go live in her backyard. She admitted she's on stolen land. It's not her property. And so why can't he live there? Seems pretty reasonable. And she should welcome it, by the way. And the Tongvins should take it over. So, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. NeuroD, thanks for sharing the channel over on X. RDCOS, arrests can't come fast enough. Tell me about it. And there's a lot of arresting that needs to be happening out there. And so, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for being here. We have a great week ahead. Multiple days left to unpack the business that's out there, and we're excited to do that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing once again, liking this video on your way out, and all of the things. We'll pause here for the evening before we wrap it up. Big thanks to our mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us and keep things nice and orderly. John in the house, Muffin Rando, you rock. Donut Mind Me, K Bean, always helpful. Carrie B, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda. Modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful. And my friends, it's been a lovely stream. So, members, we'll be back in the morning. We'll get into it again. Looking forward to it. Hey, Pack Rat, just liked and subscribed. Thank you, Pack Rat. Very nice of you to do that. Thank you. Steve C66, great to see you. Jonah Finn, nice. Shane, what's up? Dixie Dogs. We got Dan Link over on the YouTubes. CDW Cauldron is here. Gerald Bonachita. What's up? Just Rhonda. We got Jonah Finn, Steve C66, all joining us. Thank you, Donut, for dropping the links over there. And on Rumble, we got Delay is Obvious. What's up, Jacob Castro? Marley said you had a horse as a child. That sounds nice. What's up, Jody? Donuts over there. We got Jan X over there. Soaring Sparrow Rising. What a beautiful day. It's a lovely day. And our friends on Locals, of course. First Amendment. Quell, nice to see you. Thank you for the donos. Adesia, are you just getting here? Well, hopefully you have the show. Hit the rewind button. And now my Locals chat just died out. There it is. What say Sadie? What's up, Sadie? Nice to see you. KX, Boopsy. Thank you, Boopsy. Very nice of you to say that. I think did I miss a comment from you, Londo? No, I don't think I didn't skip them, but I may have missed something. So let me just double check before we wrap it up. Let's see. Got those from Dan. Londo, did I miss something from you? I think we got it, but if I'm wrong, we'll make it up tomorrow. But my friends, beautiful day, beautiful stream. Happy Wednesday. I hope tonight you have the most peaceful and pleasant sleep you've had all week long. And then you return tomorrow to join us again, because we are going to be here. We are going to unpack a lot together. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here, so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together